Olympics end in heartbreak for Bolton. Australian snowboarder Cam Bolton breaks neck in training, ending Winter Olympics campaign. Australia's Winter Olympics team had been dealt a devastating blow after veteran snowboarder Cam Bolton suffered a broken neck during training, forcing him to withdraw from the games. The 35-year-old, competing in his fourth Olympics, was preparing for the snowboard cross event when he crashed during training on Monday. Although he initially appeared stable, Bolton woke up the following morning with increasing neck pain, prompting immediate medical evaluation. Now we take a closer look at this story in our AI
There's this
podcast.
idea in elite sports, called the razor-thin margin.
Right.
And we usually think of it in terms of winning, the difference between gold and silver being like a hundredth of a second.
Sure.
But there's a much, much darker side to that margin. It's the split second between landing a trick perfectly and ending up in a medevac helicopter.
And that is the brutal arithmetic of the Winter Olympics. It really is. We tune in for the glory, the anthems, all the shiny suits. But if you actually zoom in on what happens at the training camps just before the games, it can look less like a sporting event and more like a triage unit.
That is exactly where we're going today. We are doing a deep dive into a source called Winter Olympics, Injury, Shadows, and Triumphs in the Snow.
And it focuses specifically on the Australian team's current camp in Livigno, Italy.
And I have to say, reading through this report, the vibe isn't excitement. It feels heavy.
It is heavy. And our mission here isn't just to rattle off an injury list. We want to really understand the physical reality of what's happening. We're talking about the specific medical dramas, the physiology of how adrenaline can mask a catastrophic injury, and the mental fortitude it takes to keep going when your teammates are, well, literally disappearing around you.
So let's start with a story that really anchors this whole report. It's about Cam Bolton. Anyone who follows snowboard cross knows this guy. He's 35, a veteran. This isn't some rookie going too big. This was supposed to be his fourth Olympic Games.
And that context is so key. He was the highest-placed men's snowboard cross rider for Australia back in Beijing. Finished 13th. He's experienced, he knows the snow, he knows his body, which makes what happened to him even more, I think, unsettling.
Right, because when we think of these big crashes, it's all very dramatic. It's live on TV. You hear the gasp from the crowd. The stretcher comes out.
Instantly.
But Bolton's crash, it happened during a training run on a Monday. And the strangest part, he finished the day.
That's the detail that just grabs you. He crashed, he got up, and he just kept going. He must have thought he was fine.
But how is that even possible? I mean, spoiler alert here, he had 2 fractures in his neck. How do you walk around with a broken neck and not know it?
Well, it's the physiology of high-performance survival. When you crash hard on a mountain, your body just dumps a massive amount of adrenaline and cortisol into your system.
The fight or flight thing.
Exactly. It's an evolutionary response. Get up, get away from the danger. And that chemical cocktail is an incredibly potent painkiller. It masks the structural damage. Plus, the muscles around your neck will often spasm and basically splint the fracture, holding everything really rigid.
So he goes to bed Monday night thinking, wow, I took a hard knock, I'm going to be sore tomorrow.
That's it. But then the adrenaline wears off overnight, the inflammation really starts to set in, and the source says he woke up the next morning with increasing neck pain.
And that's the red flag.
That's the big one. That's when you know it's not just a bruise.
And the medical team, they didn't waste any time. The report says they sent him for scans immediately. And when those scans came back, it was game over.
2 fractures. I mean, just imagine the psychological whiplash. 1 minute you're thinking you need an ice pack, the next you're being told you need a specialist neurosurgeon. It escalated so quickly they couldn't keep him in Livigno.
They had to airlift him.
Yeah.
That image is just, it's stuck in my head. A helicopter taking off in this beautiful, snowy Italian mountain, carrying an athlete whose 4-year dream just, poof, it evaporated.
It's haunting. But what's really fascinating is the report on his mental state. The officials are saying he's in good spirits.
How can you be?
Well, his wife flew to Italy to be with him. A team official went with him on the chopper. But there's this quote from Elisa Camplin, the chef de machine, that really tells you everything about his character.
Oh, I know the one you mean. I bookmarked it. She said that Cam's priority was making sure his teammates knew he was okay and being looked after.
Think about that. That is profound leadership. You have to remember, in that kind of team environment, when one person goes down, especially a veteran leader like Bolton, panic can spread like a virus.
Is the course unsafe? Is the snow bad?
Am I next? All of it. And Bolton, even in the middle of his own trauma, he understood that. He was trying to stop the fear from spreading. He didn't want his injury to throw everyone else off.
It's the ultimate definition of taking one for the team. But, okay, the sporting reality. Bolton is out. The source says an Olympic debutant, James Johnstone, is stepping in.
And talk about a bittersweet moment for that kid. You get your shot at the Olympics, but it's only because your teammate is in a hospital bed in Milan. It's that next man up mentality, but it's pretty grim.
And unfortunately, Cam Bolton is not an anomaly here. If this were just one guy, you'd call it bad luck. But reading this whole report, the Livigno camp feels, well, cursed is a strong word, but the rate of attrition is really high.
Cursed might be the emotional word for it, but statistically we'd call it a cluster. The source calls Bolton's injury the fourth major setback for the team. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern.
Let's talk about Misaki Vaughn. This one hit me hard because she's on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from Bolton.
Yeah.
She's only 20. This was going to be her debut.
A snowboard halfpipe rider. Young, so much talent. And her injury is totally different, but the outcome is just as devastating. She didn't break a bone. She hit her head.
Right. She failed a head injury assessment, an HIA. Now, can we break down why this specific protocol ended her games before they even started?
So the HIA is, it's an incredibly rigid protocol now. It's not subjective anymore. You don't just ask an athlete, how many fingers am I holding up, and let them ride if they get it right. There are strict neurological baselines. If you fail, you enter a mandatory stand-down period. And in this case, the source says she's ruled out for a minimum of 7 days.
7 days.
But
That doesn't sound like a lifetime.
in normal life, no. At the Olympics, it's an eternity. It is fatal to your campaign. You have to remember, those 7 days, they cover all the official training runs on the competition pipe.
Ah, so you need to get the feel for that specific pipe.
You absolutely have to. Every single half pipe is cut slightly differently. The snow temperature changes the speed. The transitions feel unique. If you miss 7 days of practice, you can't just drop in on day 8 and compete safely. You've lost your snow feel. So that 7-day rule, it effectively ends her Olympics.
That is just heartbreaking. I mean, to be physically able to walk around, probably feeling fine after a day or two, but being told, no, sorry, the calendar says you can't compete.
But that's the evolution of athlete welfare. 10 years ago, maybe she would have ridden, and maybe she would have crashed again and suffered permanent brain damage. The protocol is there to save her future, but the cost is her present dream. It's a really harsh trade-off.
And the list just keeps going. There's Daisy Thomas, a young freestyle skier. Injured her knee, she's had to withdraw from slopestyle.
But notice the language in the report there. It says she remains hopeful for the big air competition. That's a crucial distinction. Slopestyle's technical, tons of landings, twisting on rails, big air. It's one big jump.
So she's basically bargaining, trying to salvage something.
Pretty much. She's in what I'd call the tape it up and pray phase. Medical staff are likely working around the clock on that knee compression, ice, anti-inflammatories, just trying to get it stable enough for maybe 1 or 2 landings.
Which brings us to Laura Peel, a 2-time world champion, an aerial skiing medal favorite. And what do you know? Also a knee injury.
Peel is a really interesting case study in veteran grit. Unlike Vaughn, who is ruled out by a protocol, or Bolton, who's out with fractures, Peel is in that gray zone. The report says she's continuing to make progress.
Which sounds like code for she is in a world of pain but is refusing to quit.
It usually is. Aerial skiers are just a different breed. They launch themselves 3 stories into the air. They are used to insane impacts. Peel's been here before. She knows exactly how much pain her body can tolerate while still executing her technique. She is not giving up until the doctors physically restrain her.
It really does paint this picture of a Man S unit. You have neck braces, concussions, blown knees, and overseeing all this chaos is Lisa Camplin, the chef de mission. We mentioned her earlier with the Bolton quote, but her role here is so much more than just a manager.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where the source gives us this huge aha moment about the whole culture of this team. Camplin is quoted saying, "My heart breaks for them. I know how much work goes into chasing an Olympic dream."
Which is a nice thing to say.
It is, but from a normal administrator, that's just a good press release. But coming from Lisa Camplin, that statement carries the entire weight of history.
Because she has lived it. The source reminds us of her legendary win at the Salt Lake City Games.
Legendary is the only word for it. She won the aerials gold medal. But the detail that people forget, or maybe never even knew, is that she did it while skiing on 2 fractured ankles.
I still can't wrap my head around that. 2 broken ankles. I could barely walk to the fridge if I stubbed my toe. How do you land a triple twisting flip on broken bones?
You tape them up until they're basically casts, you get them injected with local anesthetic, and you dissociate from the pain. It's a level of mental compartmentalization that most people just, thankfully, never have to access.
So when she's looking at Cam Bolton in a neck brace or Laura Peel limping around on a bad knee, she's not just offering some corporate sympathy. She knows. She knows that bargain you make with your own body at 3 a.m.
Exactly. She validates that entire culture of pain. So when she says with 53 athletes competing in high-risk events, it's not unusual, she's normalizing the trauma. She's saying this is the price of admission. It might sound cold to an outsider, but to the athletes, it's probably incredibly reassuring to have a leader who doesn't panic at the sight of an MRI.
It changes the whole tone of the report, really. It shifts it from being just a tragedy to, well, the reality of the business.
The shadows in the title, but the title also mentions triumphs, and we have to pivot here because amidst all the helicopters and scans, the competition is actually going on, and there is one athlete who seems to be operating on a completely different planet.
Chikara Anthony.
The Olympic champion, and the contrast is just, it's jarring.
It really is. One side of the mountain, athletes are being medevaced out. On the other side, Chikara Anthony is just dominating. The source says she topped the moguls qualifying and extended her unbeaten Olympic run to 5 rounds.
She is the anchor. For a team that is spiraling a little bit with all these injuries, she is the stabilizing force. But look at her reaction to it all. It's so clinical.
Yeah, her quote was something like, "My goal was to get through qualification 1. I'm happy with that."
I'm happy with that. I mean, she just destroyed the entire field, and she talks about it like she successfully filed her taxes.
But isn't that the secret? To be that good?
It absolutely is. It's a psychological fortress.
Yeah.
To perform at that level when you know your roommate might be flying home with a concussion or your friend just broke his neck, that requires an incredible ability to focus. You have to shut out all the what-ifs. You have to block out the chaos of the camp and shrink your entire world down to just the moguls right in front of you.
It's so impressive. But not everyone had it as easy as Chikara did. We should mention Matt Graham, her fellow flag bearer.
Right. If Chikara represents dominance, Matt Graham represents pure survival.
The source says he secured the final qualifying spot in the men's event.
The very last one.
I mean, that is cutting it so close.
We're back to that razor-thin margin again, aren't we? One tiny mistake, one little slip, and he's out. But he held on. He made it through.
And that's the difference, isn't it? Bolton didn't make it. Vaughn didn't make it. Graham scraped through by the skin of his teeth, but he is still alive in the competition.
And that's the binary nature of this sport. There is no almost. You are either in the start gate for the final or you are not. And Graham is still in that fight. And frankly, after the week the Australian team has had, just surviving qualification is a victory in itself.
So we bring this all together. We have this report from Livigno that paints this picture of a team that is, battered and bruised, but it's still punching. What's the real takeaway here for us, watching from our couches at home?
I think it forces you to rethink what you're actually seeing when you turn on the TV. When you watch that primetime broadcast, you're only seeing the survivors. You're seeing the lucky ones.
The ones who didn't happen to catch an edge in a training run on a Tuesday.
Precisely. We see all the glory, the smiles on the podium. But what this source material does is remind us that for every Chikara Anthony standing calmly at the bottom of the hill, there's a Cam Bolton in a hospital bed in Milan just staring at the ceiling.
And realizing that his wife had to fly halfway across the world just to sit next to that bed. It really grounds the whole spectacle.
It does. Preparation doesn't guarantee your safety. You can train for 4 years, eat all the right food, do all the right gym work, and in the end, gravity can still win. Sometimes winning isn't about the gold medal. Sometimes winning is just surviving the training camp long enough to even make it to the start line.
It really makes you wonder about the cost of glory. We consume this as entertainment. We love the crashes, the speed, the high stakes. But when the camera cuts away, the athlete doesn't just respawn like in a video game. They have to live with the consequences.
They carry the scars. Just like Elisa Camplin carries the memory of those broken ankles, the pain becomes part of their legacy.
It's a lot to think about next time you see someone standing on that podium. You almost have to ask yourself, what are the shadows lurking just behind that shiny gold medal?
And is the spectacle worth the toll? That's really the question, isn't it?
A heavy question to leave you with, but an important one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the snowy, slippery, and sometimes heartbreaking world of the Winter Olympics. We'll catch you next time.
Okay, one question for you. What went wrong in training that caused Cam Bolton's serious neck injury and ended his Winter Olympics campaign? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.